Hello and welcome to Apex Reviews. It's that time of year again where you got to winterize your boat. This time we got a few extra tips, so stick around to the end of the video and you can see a few things I've changed from last year. I always like to start by removing the cushions and bringing them into the garage. I like to spray them down with some of this Vinyl Sauce Professional Cleaner. It does a pretty good job. I like letting it sit for a few minutes before I take a scrub brush to it. The scrub brush I'm using here has pretty soft bristles. I worry about the seams and the stitching a lot, so I like to use a softer bristle to make sure I don't tear any of those seams apart. There's a few tough spots every year that I always have to work on. I've got two other brushes I bring out. One's got medium bristles and then one's pretty stiff. If I use the stiff brush, I try to make sure not to get any of the seams. This spot's going to need some more work. A lot of times I'll use this green sauce, mildew remover, for spots that I'm having difficulty with. I have yet to find a spray that works without a little bit of elbow grease. It seems like every year I'm putting a lot of energy into trying to get some of these stains out of the seats, but at least we're having fun with the boat. That spot's going to need some more work later. Once I'm done cleaning the cushions, I run over it with some of this condition sauce. Just spray it on and then rub back over it with a terry cloth. This helps keep the vinyl and the stitching nice and soft. After I do all the cushions in the garage, I head out to the boat and I start working on the cushions that are attached. This is the captain's chair. It's going to need a little work too, but the green sauce works pretty well in getting these spots out. That's what was left of that black spot. I'll probably come back and spend a little bit more time on that. It's going to need a little bit more elbow grease. But for the most part, these seats come out pretty clean. I can't imagine anybody being scared to sit on them come next boating season. Then I run through the whole interior, making sure that all the cushions and vinyl are all cleaned and protected. Then we'll start winterizing the engine. Unless your boat has a closed cooling system, you're going to need some sort of source of fresh water to maintain the running temperature and keep it from overheating. I use one of these plungers. This year I'm attaching a string to the bottom of the plunger. You'll see why later. The plunger is connected to a hose, and then we install it right up beneath that scupper so that the boat gets fresh water as it's running. On my setup, I use a pump and a trash bucket to supply the water to the boat, but you could just connect the plunger directly to a hose. You'll see why I do it this way in a minute. Here's what the final setup looks like. Now you can start to see why I have that string so handy. Next, you're going to want to check your fuel supply. See how many gallons you actually have in the tank. I've got a 55-gallon tank and I'm about 3/4 full. We're just going to call that 50 gallons for easy math, because the next step is adding Stabil. It's 1 ounce for every 10 gallons, so I added 5 ounces. Next, it's time to add your water. You can see here that I've got plenty of water being supplied to the boat, so I don't mind starting it up. There's no need to run your blower because I've got the engine compartment open, so all the gas fumes have already been released. Now it's time to start up the boat and let it get up to operating temperature. If you have a heater, I'd go ahead and turn that on too. While you're waiting for the boat to come up to operating temperature, you want to make sure it has a constant supply of water so it won't overheat. You know you're doing a good job if you see water coming out the exhaust. While it's warming up, I take this opportunity to take off the air filter. You're going to need this so that you can spray some fogging oil in there. I like to use the fogging oil because it keeps the inside of the cylinders from pitting in case there's any moisture in the air. In preparation for the next step, I've gone ahead and taken the cap off of 5 gallons of RV antifreeze. You're going to want to use RV antifreeze because it's safe for the environment. Once the engine's up to operating temperature and you're ready to run that RV antifreeze through the engine, go ahead and let the water drain down. Once it gets near the bottom, start filling up the bucket with the RV antifreeze, and the boat will start sucking it up and running it through the engine. Once you've got most of the RV antifreeze running through the engine, go ahead and spray your defogger into the intake manifold until the engine quits, or you could turn the boat off. Then I like to come back here with a clear glass and make sure that I've got the RV antifreeze running all the way through the system. If it's coming out the exhaust, you know you're good. Now to see if my little string trick worked. Yeah. Next, you want to go ahead and put your air filter back on. The next step in my process is to give the boat a nice wash. I use a Chemical Bros foam cannon, but you can use whatever you have. Before we put it away, I always like to pull the batteries out and keep them on a trickle charger. It's a good idea to take a picture of your battery setup so that when it comes time to install them next year, you know how to do it. One trick I picked up over the years is that bugs like to make homes in all these little cracks and crevices of our boats. They do this over the winter season. So what I've started doing is spraying some bug spray in a lot of these spots, just to coax them away. One of the last steps in my winterization process is to fill the tires up with winter air. I always hit the max PSI. Since they're trailer tires, it doesn't really matter. Here's something I've just recently started doing. Every time we put the boat in the garage for the winter, I like to jack the tires up in the air. This keeps them from turning into squares and prevents the concrete from soaking moisture out of the rubber. That's it for this year's winterization. Thanks for watching.